As we've all been enamored with the Bitcoin ETF and its inflows, a lot of us aren't really paying attention to what the U.S. Energy Information Administration, or the EAI, is doing. Now, I reported on this, I believe, last week or the week before, that during this wonderful time where all of these financial institutions are dipping their toes in the pool of Bitcoin, well, guess what? The EIA was making requests for Bitcoin miners' energy usage because, of course, right, they want to be able to understand it. They want to be able to understand the usage, and more importantly, they want to be able to make recommendations and rules around it. But is that really all they're up to? Welcome back. Let's dive into it. The U.S. Department of Energy plan to collect crypto energy data is abuse of power. That's right. Bitcoiners are fighting back. We're totally surprised, right? Last week, in an emergency request that was approved by the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, the EIA was cleared to demand that commercial crypto miners share their energy usage details as part of a survey titled Proposed Emergency Survey, Cryptocurrency Mining Facilities. The clearance was granted as a matter of urgency after the EIA claimed that a combination of major cold snaps in the US and increased crypto mining activity brought about by the increasing price of Bitcoin, okay, pay attention to these mental gymnastics, may cause heightened uncertainty in electric power markets. And we're not even going to mention the fact that miners in Texas have been working in conjunction with local governments. So whenever power requirements change and miners must be turned off, they are being turned off. Okay, so we're not even going to discuss these types of I guess you'd call them public-private partnerships, or even private-private partnerships, whatever they are, but agreements that are working without government intervention. Who would have? I know that sounds crazy. I'm nuts. Okay, let's continue. The move has drawn strong criticism from two groups in particular. Texas Blockchain Council President Lee Bratcher and Perianne Boring, chief exec of the Chamber of Digital Commerce, said the EIA's emergency action is tantamount to federal overreach and has implications for all industries that rely on data centers for their operations. And that's right, because what this really has to do with is who determines what is a waste of energy and what is a good use of energy, right? That's really the big question. So anyways, let's continue. They added that the move was politically motivated to help the White House achieve its goals to cut greenhouse gas emissions. And I always talk about this. The climate change boogeyman is the best story, okay? And the reason it is the best story is that it is invisible. The goalposts can constantly move, and our actions can constantly be manipulated in direction of the end goal of making sure we're cutting greenhouse gases and we're paying attention to climate change, the ever invisible magical boogeyman that we'll never be able to catch. You'll see, we're never going to catch the climate change boogeyman. The EIA stated we conduct dozens of surveys with energy producers and consumers, some of which we've been conducting for decades. We're hopeful we can work with companies in the cryptocurrency industry to provide the American public with a clear understanding of energy use. Now, that sounds objective and transparent, but that is not the end goal, right? That is simply the story that is told so that you will buy the narrative. And of course, if for whatever reason, Bitcoin mining companies push back with valid reasons, well, guess what? They are immediately seen as the enemy, right? It's the enemy, because guess what? The EIA has been conducting these surveys for decades. Nobody's had a problem. Why do you have a problem with that, Mr. Bitcoin miner? It's all about perception, guys. It's perception and storytelling. Anyways, in 2023, crypto mining was responsible for up to 2.3% of the USA's entire electricity use. Now, this is where we get into the gray area of what's considered valid and what's not valid. What's considered too much energy use, right? Because that's really what it is. If you can get fooled by the idea that the energy used to secure Bitcoin's network is unworthy, well, then you can then make the leap to say, why are people doing this? We should stop this. This is bad. And that is exactly what governments want you to think. So look, we've had a lot of energy use articles, and I tried to dig up a more recent one. I couldn't find it, but I found this one here from Nick Carter in 2021, which, again, I'm not endorsing Nick Carter, but this was a good article, so we're going to use it. Anyways, how much energy does Bitcoin actually consume? That's right. The question about energy use is a fair one. Indeed, it is. According to the Cambridge Center for Alternative Finance, Bitcoin currently consumes around 110 terawatt hours per year, or 0.55% of global electricity production, or roughly equivalent to the annual energy draw of small countries like Malaysia or Sweden. This certainly sounds like a lot of energy, but how much energy should a monetary system consume? And that is I'm for Bitcoin. So I believe that this framing is accurate because I am one of those people who prescribes to the idea that a monetary system, right? A worthwhile monetary system is going to use energy, and I believe that that energy is not wasted in securing that monetary system. So of course, I believe that, hey, it is a valid use of energy. Another key factor that makes Bitcoin's energy consumption different from that of most other industries is that Bitcoin can be mined anywhere. Almost all of the energy used worldwide must be produced relatively close to its end users, but Bitcoin has no such limitation, enabling miners to utilize power sources that are inaccessible for most other applications. And what are they talking about there? They're talking about the use of flared gas, because right now, essentially, what happens is that the gas itself, okay, gets burned into the air, producing more CO2. So essentially what happens is that that gas that gets burnt instead can be converted into energy that will fuel Bitcoin miners. Therefore, now all of a sudden, this oil company is no longer burning off the excess gas. Okay, that's the first part. And then the second part of it is that they're actually monetizing that. So it literally went from waste to profit. So right there, businesses are now incentivized to go and get these taps. So it's very it is not black and white. It is very gray what is happening. The other point of it is that our decision as a society of what is considered waste of energy versus a proper use of energy. Well, if you believe that the government should be printing money, and you believe that the government should have sole control over how the value of that money functions, well, then you're most likely going to look at Bitcoin and say, this is a waste of energy and we don't need it. But if you value censorship resistance, if you value something that a government cannot produce ad nauseum, that has no central point of failure, if you value the qualities of Bitcoin, then you realize that the energy that it's using to secure the network is actually, it's not bad waste. It is actually a good use of the energy because you understand the importance of the monetary system for you, and you also understand the importance of the ability for you to be able to insulate yourself from government abuse of the money. Anyways, Guys, yeah, I mean, this is just more of the then they fight you stage. We're seeing a whole lot of rosy information, but at the same time, if we think for a second, the government creep, or more specifically, the authoritarian creep isn't happening. It is. It's happening, and it's not stopping. Yesterday, I talked about the regulations that are going to start to take place in Spain and how the Spanish are going to comply with MICA regulation. Now, today, we're taking a look at this, right, where the Texas Blockchain Council has to push back on the EIA, essentially about trying to, if you ask me, dox miners. That's pretty much what they're doing, right? Like we're just sending out these surveys that you have to fill out. Okay. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think. Put it in the comments. That does it for this clip, and I'm going to catch you all next week.